Kristy, welcome to Locked In. I'm glad we can make this happen on such short notice. You guys texted me yesterday, and it worked out. I had a cancellation today, and we got you here.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And you've been a listener of the show too.
I have. Yeah, I love the show.
Awesome. And you're also a author. You wrote this book, Perfectly Flawed, that you generously brought us a copy of.
Yeah.
And we'll have the links in the description of this episode for people to check out.
Great.
What is this book about?
So it is 33 short chapters it's like an interactive book. So I talk about my journey of growing up through just a regular childhood, through incarceration, and then what the heck am I going to do when I get out, and why did I end up here, and now what am I going to do? And then at the end of every chapter, I ask the reader questions about their life to get them to be self-reflective. And so there's room to write. So at the end, I'm hoping that they'll see parts of their life that they never thought of before.
And that's definitely an interesting take that you've used, like prison as like a kind of a self-help type book too.
Right.
That's definitely, I don't think there's many that are out there like that are interactive.
Well, I think it's so important because I learned that women in prison, it's like a trauma hospital, is what I say. And so why do people end up there? And so I think it's really important for us to realize that it's not because we're terrible people. It's because of either trauma or past things that no one's really thought about, or women just are strong and don't cry and you do what you have to do. But then it takes time to unravel a little bit of that to be like, wow, I see this situation, started me on the path of going down this road. And then you kind of see the way the road winds. And then you're like, oh, wow, there's a few times I'm like, wow, no wonder I ended up here.
Yeah, it's crazy how life takes us. And you're obviously someone that doesn't look like they'd ever been in prison. I'm sure people are shocked when you tell them.
Right. Yes.
Now, did you grow up in Connecticut or somewhere else?
I grew up in Orange County, California.
So
this is my first time back in Connecticut, like right now as a free person.
Oh, wow. Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah,
feels good.
Most of the women that were incarcerated, they went to FCI Danbury.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always like weird for them to return because we're like 10 minutes from there. But that was one of the questions I asked you outside, and you said you hadn't been to the Danbury prison because there's not that many female federal prisons.
There isn't. I did go to Danbury, but that's only because Con Air took me to Newark, and I was on my way to Wyatt, which was the pre-detention.
I was there.
Oh, you were at Wyatt. Okay,
yep, and I went on Con Air at Newark. We'll get into all that later.
Okay, we'll get into that. So Wyatt forgot about me. So after everyone... They all got in the van to go wherever they were going to go, the men and women, and I was left. And so they said, come on with us to Danbury, but then they put me in the SHU because I wasn't really supposed to be there. So that was my only one-night horror SHU experience, was in Danbury.
Wow. So Orange County, what was that like growing up? Did you have a mom, dad, siblings at all?
Yeah, I had a mom and dad. I have one sister that's younger. I grew up really close to Disneyland. We went there every summer for our birthdays. My father was a bartender at Disneyland Hotel, and then he opened his own cabinet shop. And so my mom stayed home. It was a normal childhood. One thing, when I was born, I had medical issues, so I was in the hospital a lot. So I was either at the beach or at school or in the hospital getting operations and things. So that's the only thing that was a little not as normal.
Wow, you guys had the connect at Disneyland.
We were right across the street. It was great.
And with him working there, you probably got the discounts.
Yeah.
Who were you closer to, your mother or your father?
Boy, I think I was close to both, but different. My dad would work a lot, but when I was in the hospital, he would be like the first face I'd see every morning. Like, are you okay? How do you feel? So he had a lot of emotion, I think, about had his little girl in the hospital all the time. But my mom was the stoic, handled things, made sure I was healthy and doing what I should be doing. So I think I was a little bit of both.
How are you guys financially, and especially with the hospital stays? Did that cause like a strain on the family?
I heard that it did a little bit when I was young. They could only have one car. in order to get certain insurance, to pay. But like I said, my dad got his cabinet shop. He started from nothing. He quit school when he was young. But he worked really hard day and night, and he grew that business all the way to doing Kobe Bryant's house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did his kitchen. Isn't that cool?
Wow.
Yeah, from a young kid from Pico Rivera. Yeah, and he learned how to do cabinets.
Do you feel like you were a little entrepreneurial at all?
I'm very entrepreneurial.
It's interesting because he wasn't really he didn't start off doing that. He worked for someone else and then transitioned midlife.
Right.
Which it's hard to do that as you get older.
It's hard to do. Yeah. And there were times that he would call me because he had to learn computers himself. And he'd be like, Chris, look, I can make this wardrobe. Look at these shoes I could do on the computer. And he was so excited about it. Yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then did you go to public schools, your whole middle school, high school?
Yep. Mm-hmm. I went to Laguna Hills into high school, and then I went to college just a little bit. I got really great grades. I had strict parents, so I pretty much got the good grades because I had to. But school was okay, but it was easy for me.
What would you say was your aspiration? In high school Kristy, what were you thinking your future was going to look like?
High school Kristy would love to be at the beach every day and go skiing at night. Also, I was really into fashion, so I worked in retail a lot. I ended up working at Nordstrom selling shoes, which eventually got me to do my own business as a wardrobe stylist. So I had my own Kristy K wardrobe stylist business, and I did that for a long time prior to prison.
Oh, so that was the last job you had before going to prison?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what goes wrong then? You have the good family, everything's good, that perfect family,
right.
And you go off to college, and then it all goes to shit?
It all just one day, yeah.
Well, that's how it does. It's normally one decision,
Yeah. Well, there was a couple decisions. My husband, I was married to a police officer.
Ooh.
Right.
Plot twist.
Yeah, plot twist. And he ended up having an affair with someone that he had pulled over, from what I understand.
Wait, what? Do you know the details about this?
I do a little bit.
Can you share? Give us what exactly happened?
Yeah, I heard. That, so I was it was on New Year's Eve, I was getting my eyebrows waxed, right? And so the phone kept ringing, and I'm like, I don't know, why is my phone ringing? So I picked up the phone, and this woman's voice said, is this Kristy? And she sounded drunk. I said, yeah, this is Kristy. And she said, well, my name's Kristy too, and I'm in love with your husband. I was like, what? That shocked me because I was not expecting that at all. And she said, we've been seeing each other for a few months, and, we want to be together. And I was like, what? We were going out that night. I had no idea. And at the time, my dad was sick with cancer. And also at the time, my husband and I were adopting. So we were in the process of adopting. So all of a sudden, from that phone call and with my dad being sick, everything just kind of flipped. And so my husband called me later, and he's like, hey, I'm at Blockbuster. I want to you remember Blockbuster?
Yeah, of course. That was the best spot on Friday nights.
It was. He's like, hey, I'm going to get a movie, and I said, wait, I have a question. And he's like, what? I said, who's Kristy? And then there was, of course, there's no talk. It's just quiet. And so I said, okay, if you were me, what would you do right now? Because I didn't know. I thought I was more the wild one. And he said, I would go home and wait for me. And so I said, okay, I can do that. And it is so crazy how you could lay back down and finish your other eyebrow. Dude, your whole world is, going to explode. So then I went home, and, the phone rang, to his phone. And I'm like, I know you're not going to pick up the phone. But he did, and it was her, and so I left.
How many years into the marriage was this?
10 years.
10 years.
14 together.
It's such an interesting perspective because people look up to police officers, and this is a great moment to show that they are humans and make mistakes too.
Yeah, and he was a police officer that was always if someone was in trouble, he would call me hey, Chris, is there any way we can get this guy like to an AA meeting? Or, he was really thoughtful, but he was also someone that would say, oh, I'd pull that girl over, or, started to get judgmental after he had been doing it for 10 years and saw a lot of stuff that was horrific and hard, but yeah, so I'm like, and then you're with someone like her. Yeah, I think he pulled her over in front of the strip club in Orange County. The strip club was called Captain Cream's.
Oh, man.
Can you believe it?
Have you talked to him since you went to prison?
I have.
What did he say about all that?
Bad decision. I don't love her, and he wasn't with her after, but I was already, if you're going to do that, that's not okay with me in any capacity.
Wow. So interesting. You were married to a cop and then you yourself become incarcerated later on, and he cheats on you. Wow.
Right. And we were in the middle of adopting, which was really important because I couldn't have kids. But at the same time, like I said, my dad was dying of cancer, and then I ended up in the hospital for a kidney issue. And also a little bit after that, I was seeing somebody who had relapsed on methamphetamine. And he called me when I was in the hospital, not knowing I was there. He said, Chris, I need your help. I'm in Palm Springs. I can't get out. I need you to come help me. And so I said, that I would. And I went to pick him up. After I got out of the hospital, they gave me, here's the deal. So when I was in the hospital, the nurse, she said, I'll get you a pain shot. And I knew I didn't need one. And I had a history of overusing medication because, I'd had like 40 operations, and I was used to dealing with emotions by Demerol, or pain shots, and so, my family would be upset, and it would be a lot of emotions being in there. But I'd always say in the back of my mind, well, at least I'll get a pain shot because that is going to make things all right. And so I became addicted to that. And then I went to a rehab and learned about all of it. I didn't even really know about all of it because I had only done that my entire life. And so I stopped, meaning that, I didn't take pills, or if I had to have some for an operation, I gave it to someone and took them as prescribed, things like that. So when I went back in after, with my husband, a fall through, adoption, and my dad, the lady's like, I'll get you a shot. And I was not in pain. But I was like, I deserve it. I want just a little relief is all I wanted. And so that led me on, wanting more immediately. And as soon as I took it, when she came back and even like put the needle in my vein, I was like, wow, I'm in trouble. I knew it because I love that feeling. It was the only feeling that like gave me peace without having to deal with emotions or boundaries or, pain. And so when I got that call from him and they sent me home with a bunch of Vicodin that I said okay, and I took instead of in the past, and picked him up, and, I can go on with the story.
Do you think that if you weren't in the hospital that time, you never would have gotten back on to?
Yeah, it's a good possibility.
So you go and meet up with him. What happens next?
I meet up with him. I pick him up. I take him to a hotel. And in my mind, which sounds crazy now, but it made so much sense at the time, I knew that this addiction of opioid would not be good. And I knew that it would be hard to stop, especially with no accountability. And so I took him to the hotel in Palm Springs, and I went back to the place I picked him up. And I said, if I try some of this, because I'm not going to get addicted to meth. I mean, I'm a wardrobe stylist. I don't do that, If I take some of this, then that will stop the addiction process of the opioid, and then I'll stop this, and then it'll be done. And so I did, and that's not what happened. And so I liked the way that made me feel. It did stop the opioid. I didn't try to get more pills or, any more of the pain medication, but I liked the way that made me feel. And I wasn't dealing with emotions. I wasn't dealing with any of the big stuff that was happening. And then I kept going, but I didn't tell him about it until one day, and he was so angry. I was just saying this just a minute ago, he was so like snot crying, like he was so mad, like, Chris, this is the devil, like, what are you doing? Like, he was like pacing. I'm like, dude, you were being a little over dramatic. But I didn't know the whole thing of addiction with meth. And so after being angry and letting it settle in, I'm like, dude, you're being dramatic here. Then he got more and I got more. And then someone said, hey, if you get a little extra, it'll be free. And then you could sell it to this guy here. And they're like, okay. And that's what we did. And then it kept
Wait,
going.
you started selling meth?
I started selling meth.
Wow.
Right.
So why do you think you broke like your rule about you knew that meth was something you didn't want to touch? Why do you think you went back on that?
I think it was because I was disconnected from myself. And that's part of the reason that I started to write, to figure out why. When you grow up with not dealing with emotions, not having boundaries, I just like gave power away. I never was someone that said, here's exactly what I want, or this, I don't like this, or this doesn't feel right, or holding on to my power, I guess is the best way to say it. I was disconnected. And so that's why I think when I see others that do crimes and, are addicted, they're like, I don't even love myself right now. I feel guilty. I feel ashamed. I'm kind of disgusted with it, but I don't want to stop, because if I do, then I got to deal with all those emotions. I'm not going to be with this person. There's so many things that I wasn't willing to do it at the moment. And then it's weird, but as a salesperson and entrepreneur, you quickly go into, well, this is it. So I can get a little extra. You start doing math in your head. It's odd, but that's exactly what happened.
And were you making any like decent money from it? You were making legit money.
Mm-hmm.
How much?
We remodeled a whole house.
So you were pushing some weight.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just you and this guy, or was there more people involved?
No, just us.
Okay. And was he about the same age, or was he older?
He was younger than me. He was a college graduate from Drake, international marketing. So we weren't people that, no one suspected. Like, we would be at the Usher concert or go to CES. We would do that and do life at the same time. It was kind of weird looking back.
Did you ever take the second to like understand where he came from, his past, and what brought him there, or is that something you guys never talked about?
We did a little bit, and I think his thing was, my opinion that there was probably stuff that happened in his past that he never talked about.
Mm-hmm. What about your parents? Were they still active in your life at the time?
My dad had died, and my mom lived in Oregon, so they weren't around.
Do you think if they were around,
yes,
it would have helped?
For sure. Mm-hmm. Yes, if my dad had not died, I'm sure that I wouldn't have gone down that road. I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying the accountability and all the emotions that were going on. I felt like I was alone, and I wasn't really. I mean, in proximity, yes, but also like I was married to a police officer who I thought would never do that, a narcotic officer at that for a period. And, yeah, so I think my wild side just said, screw it. Here's where I am, and there were aspects to it that were renting huge homes in Palm Springs and being at the beach. I mean, it was not responsibility for sure.
Did officers know who you were because you were married to like a narcotics guy? And did that help you, benefit you at all?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not that, so no one knew what I was doing, but like if I got pulled over, they would, my last name, they would let me go.
And that's the same last name you have to this day. Mm-hmm. You decided to keep it even after everything?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should or not. Yeah.
Isn't it? It's kind of hard to like remove the last name and everything, or is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like that's just kind of who I was for, for many years. I got married when I was 27, 59 now.
Oh, yeah, that's so many years to have that last name. Yeah. And when you think about it, that was a shorter period of time than all of the life you've had since then.
Right. And also, like, my maiden name, which is Alms, felt like really pure, and I didn't want to ruin the family name, kind of. You know, it's like I felt that was like pure Kristy.
That's fair. We'll give you that one.
Yeah, okay.
So what happens next? How long are you with this guy and doing these types of dealings with him?
So we're doing this for a little while, and each time someone would say, I have this guy in New York, you can mail stuff to him. That's what we did. They would mail money back to us. And then this guy in Connecticut, and so this guy, I didn't know he was a priest. And so we just did this thing back and forth for a little while.
Like most, I think, people that are selling meth and that come on the show, they're not, smart enough to sell stuff over like in the mail or anything. They're selling locally. They're strung out.
Yeah, we didn't do that.
How did you guys like come up with like this system? How do you even meet someone that says, hey, sell this? Because this is before there's any phones or social media?
We had phones. This was I was arrested 2013.
Okay.
So all this started, probably, let's just say after 2008.
2008. Okay, so there was smartphones, but not necessarily like social media.
No, thank God.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how did you guys like get contacts?
Well, the first person was in Palm Springs, and that's where he got it. That's where I met, the people, and then it started kind of small, and then it was like, hey, I have a guy, who comes to Palm Springs a lot, and he lives in Chicago. I have a guy who comes to Palm Springs, he lives in New York, and there were more quantities.
And you were just...
Instead of just around the neighborhood, it wasn't like that, really. I mean, there was a couple, but not really.
So how much are you sending in a package?
Oh, boy. I don't know. Maybe, let me think. I know we were getting back money-wise like $10,000, $20,000 probably.
Cash. So they would mail it back? Mm-hmm. So you would front it to these individuals? Like you would send it before you even got the money?
We did kind of half and half.
Okay.
And that's where it got kind of crazy, because at one point we got an envelope back and there was no money in it, but there was like the obituary from somebody, like obituaries were there, which was crazy. And so when we called this person, they had a picture of them putting it in the mail, and so me, the entrepreneur, the money person, salesperson, I'm like, okay, so we'll split that with you. And so I did a spreadsheet and a Google Doc.
You had a spreadsheet. Oh man! So were you physically the one that did the packaging, or was that your accomplice?
We both did.
You guys both. So you were hands in, down and dirty, packaging this up. And what are you in, like your 40s at this time?
Yeah.
And you're not like a strung out meth addict. Like you're not missing like teeth or missing
No, but I was using.
Okay. How much do you think you were using a day? Like were you high all the time during?
Yeah, I was.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you were pretty bad and in bad shape to that level, like clarity wise.
Yeah, because each time, like he was more of a binger, but each time there was clarity, I'd be like, what the hell am I doing? Like there was a time that one of the guys that sold to us that's from another country would come to San Diego area, Palm Springs, and he was running late. And I said, listen, you can't be late because we need to, mail this by a certain time. And so I know. So then he says, Kristy, come over here. And then, so I came over and he's like, listen, he goes, do you know how many people get killed when there is this much money and this much quantity in the house at the same time? He goes, you will never know exactly what time I'm going to be here. You don't want anyone to know exactly the time when both of this is going to be in the house at the same time. And when he said that, that's kind of the first time that it kind of shook me out of like, what the hell? I am not selling shoes at Nordstrom's. We are not talking about like wardrobe here. So I remember having just a horrible stomach ache and thinking, I was detached. So now I was like, faced with like, what am I doing? Like, my parents tried so hard to keep me alive as a child, and now here I am just like being ridiculous. It was... So so then if you use again, you're like, okay, we're not going to think about that right now.
Did you have like an end game in mind of when you wanted to get out of the business, like a dollar amount or a goal?
Probably every week, one of us, and it was every other week, they would say, Chris, it's not if, it's when. We got to stop. And so, okay, this next one. And then the next week I would say, Chad, I mean, we got to stop. And it just kept going. And so what happened was, I think when we did get that envelope, Chad was actually, he contacted an attorney from Miami who, what did he do? Oh, I think the feds like left, let's see, someone left something on the counter, and I don't know. Oh, this may have been another time that the money was taken, or there was something. So he got a Miami attorney to write a letter, and they had to give this money back by a certain, or have to do something by a certain date. And if he didn't, then they would get the money back, and they didn't. So we got the money back. You would think that would be the wise time to be like, this is okay, we're out. But it wasn't.
And did you guys have like a way to launder the money, or was it just that part didn't really matter?
It didn't matter.
So that you were just getting the cash, spending it lavishly, and that was your life?
Yeah.
Wow. This is pretty interesting that you were like this, did you end up adopting the kid or no?
No.
So you were single at this time, except for with this man, no kid.
No
and
kids.
Do you think if you ended up adopting the kid, you wouldn't have gone down this path?
For sure.
The kid would have kind of prevented you from that?
Yeah, I wouldn't have even, that wouldn't have even been a thing.
Wow.
For sure.
When you tell the story to other like moms or people in your friend circle, what do they think about this?
I don't really tell that story a lot to people. I mean, I wrote little bits in my book, but I don't really go into this detail, because even talking about it, it's, it's embarrassing. It's sickening kind of, because I had opportunities. When I was in prison, I met so many people that didn't have opportunity, but I had all that. I was just someone who was completely disconnected from myself, did not deal with my emotions or anything that was going on, with the wild side, with an adventure side, with the entrepreneurial side that used right now, that's really working well for me. So it's like, you have this coin. So when you flip it on the underside, it can get deep, quick, fast, deep. But then the same thing you flip on the other side, it can go high and great and, into amazing things. And that's where I am now on it. So at first I used to hate that part of me, but now I love that part of me because it's used for good, as someone who's really connected to themselves, loves themselves, and understands what happened.
Now, the people you were picking up from in California, there was no danger involved in that?
Oh, there was so much danger. They came from another country.
Just to deliver to you? Mm-hmm. And is this like cartel type individuals? And how did they feel delivering to a woman, or was it always your partner that went?
It was both.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that protected you, that you had another man with you? Or were they fine? They didn't care as long as they were getting paid?
I don't think they cared. It didn't feel, at the time, it didn't feel like it was cartel.
I guess they never really do. It's
no.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they did that was wise that I didn't really realize is the times they're like, hey, we're in Laguna, or hey, we're in San Clemente. We're just going to come over. So then they knew where we lived. And that was probably, that was not smart.
And you always paid up front, or did you get it on credit?
I can't remember. I don't ever think it was on credit. I doubt it. I don't remember.
I feel like that makes it even more dangerous.
Yeah.
If it's on credit.
No, I don't think. I don't think it was on credit.
How much do you think you made in total from all of this if you had to put a number on it?
Oh boy. I don't know. Hundreds of thousands.
Wow. You know, I give you credit for being high and being able to pull this off.
Right.
I mean, it's a lot. It's not like you're dealing on the street. This is pretty intricate.
It was intricate. And again, like, that's the thing about those who commit crimes is that when used, those transferable skills, when used for good, is great, you know? So, we were smart. I mean, yeah, it was smart. And the reason that we even got caught was because someone that the priest was selling to, so the priest was using and selling.
And how do you meet this priest? Who is this priest?
This priest is someone that we sold to in New York, said, I have a guy in Connecticut, just a guy. So we sold to the guy in Connecticut. And so he had a boyfriend who was raided at another, I think in New York, and he told on the priest.
So the priest sells to a guy who's in a relationship with a boy?
No, the priest sells to the guy he's in a relationship with.
Okay. And then
the
priest's
men.
boyfriend.
Yeah, the priest's boyfriend.
Okay. And so this is a gay priest that they want meth.
Yes.
In New York, and then they reach out to you guys, and then
something like that.
Yeah, you send them the meth. Was it a lot, that transaction?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And have you dealt with the priest before? Mm-mm. This is your first time.
When we got caught, that was not the first time. No, like the first time we met him was, hey, you can sell to this guy, but then it had been months doing that.
So what was the transaction then? It was just one transaction that got you jammed up?
No, it was the boyfriend telling on the priest. So there was undercover in, I think the priest lived in Waterbury.
Okay.
Bridgeport area, that area. And so an undercover marshal, I guess federal agent, was dealing with him.
We got to find this priest. He would be great for the show.
His name's Kevin Whalen. He went to prison, too.
There's got to be an article about it if he was in Connecticut, right?
A billion articles. It was so embarrassing.
Yeah.
And they called him Monsignor Meth. It was like all over all the papers.
Was he like selling in the church?
No.
Okay. He was keeping it.
He was someone that he was an addict also. He did say one time, he said, Chris, if anything ever happens, just so you know, like, you know, I've made my bed and I'm going to lay in it. And I thought that was an odd thing, but that's true. He didn't, no one told on it, anybody or anything. It's just the guy. And so when I guess I found out through discovery that they found us through Wiretap.
They were wiretapping him and then you guys got caught on the phone.
They were wiretapping his phone.
So if you had never done interactions with him, you would, I guess you never know what would have happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could be dead. Yeah. I could be dead.
So how long did you know of his arrest before they got to you?
No, they got us all on the same moment.
Okay. And this became federal.
Yes.
Okay.
So there was something which I heard that's called TNT. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
They sit on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's not funny, but Tuesdays.
Hey, you're laughing first. So.
Well, it's wild, really. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays is when they do their raids, I guess. So they got us all at the same time. I was in Las Vegas going to a consumer electronics show, but also thinking that there was something going on. So we left Orange County, went to Las Vegas. So they got us, the priest, another guy who the priest sold to, I guess, and my ex-husband, all at the same time.
Wait, why'd they arrest the ex-husband?
They didn't arrest him. They stopped to talk to him.
And he was still active in law enforcement?
Yes. But he said there's no way Chris is involved in any of this.
You were literally living like a double life.
Yeah.
So at that point when you got arrested, did you stop selling or are you still continuing operations?
When we got arrested, I I never went home. They arrested us. They did not let us leave. And then I, got 5 years in federal prison. So I never went home.
No, but until that point, before you got arrested, were you selling still, or did you take a break? Was there like a down period?
No.
So you were still moving weight, and now you're in Vegas when you went to that convention?
Well, at the time that everyone got, at the time that the feds came, that was the first, the only, the last time.
Okay. So there was no...
there was no arrest. There was just that day, which was January 10, 2013. That's the day everything stopped. That's the day that, the feds came.
Well, like January 9th, were you still selling? Like
January
the day
9th,
before?
we were in Las Vegas, but we had left San Clemente thinking that the feds could be after us.
So you knew there was some type of heat, or you had a feeling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You always kind of know.
Mm-hmm.
Like you never just get caught unexpectedly. Mm-mm. You always have like some type of feeling.
Right.
So did they like raid the hotel you were staying at?
Well, I was in bed and I was thinking, boy, these maids are making so much noise so early in the morning, and then boom. Yeah, and they came through the door and screaming, "Where's the guns?" And I have no guns. We never used a gun. Yeah.
What did they call you guys when they arrested you? Was there like a headline for you guys?
The headline said something like, "Typical Orange County couple goes to concerts and sells meth out of their home," or something like that.
Did you feel like that was an accurate description of you?
Yeah.
When your friends and family found out about this, what was their reaction?
Well, I went right to the federal holding cell in Las Vegas, so I didn't have a lot of contact with anybody except my family. It was horrific when every single terrible thing that you've been trying to hide, and it's exhausting, lying, hiding, guilt, shame, all that, and then it's all just exposed, and you're facing 10 years in prison. I have a beautiful family who loves me deeply, but I really was shocked that they still love me.
Now, when they said, or when you were arrested, did they tell you off the bat you were faced with 10 years in prison?
No, they just, they were screaming a lot. They were screaming. No, they didn't say that until later. And I was facing.
When was the first time you consulted with an attorney? Was it back when you were in Connecticut for court proceedings?
Well, in Las Vegas, we went to the first hearing, but I think my body shut down because I don't really remember the majority of it. I ended up in the hospital for about a week. I think I started hallucinating. I was not myself. They thought maybe I was pretending I was crazy to get out of it, but I literally I think I had never experienced that before, but I think my body just it was too much. I guess if you have a nervous breakdown, I don't know if that's what it is, but I went in for a week and I got back out, and I was told that I would be saying, "Yes, Your Honor," "No, Your Honor," in the courtroom when it wasn't even my turn. And they were going to let us out on our own recognizance, but I guess the magistrate in Connecticut at the last minute said, "No, bring him here." So we never went home.
Yeah, it is a little strange that they brought you all the way, I guess, to Connecticut. I feel like they could have just had a case or something out there for you guys.
Mm-mm. If they did, the leniency in Las Vegas would have been much better for us in regard to being inside. They were just, it was not a big deal, but to Connecticut it was a big deal.
What were your actual charges?
Conspiracy to distribute.
And it was just one single charge?
Yeah, I think it was I don't remember the amount. Yeah.
So they didn't hit you with anything of the mail or anything like that? It was just one charge and that was it?
I don't remember.
Okay. Were postal inspectors on your case at all, or was it just DEA, FBI?
So. DEA. I think it was just the DEA, FBI.
Okay. So then they extradite you to Connecticut.
Yeah.
What was that process of getting to Connecticut in the first
brutal.
place?
So I remember the girl said, "Hey, you're going to go on Con Air." I was like, there is not a Con Air. That's ridiculous. But there is a Con Air, so Yeah, if it was so bizarre. So, and at this time, it was like the biggest blizzard there had been in years in Connecticut. So, the marshals were wearing face masks, and like you only like saw their eyes. They were covered up, and I'm in this little brown, like this camouflage T-shirt and these brown pants, and they wouldn't give me a coat, anything. It was freezing. But so I get in the plane and. They don't tell you where you're going to go. I had an idea it would be in this area, but you're on Con Air shackled, your ankles and waist and everything, and all the men are in the back and you're in the front. And so then they let everyone off a little bit at a time. They let all the men out first, and then the few women that were there. And then, I'm outside freezing to death, and they asked if they could give me a jacket, one of the guys, and so they said no. And so everyone got into the vans, and I still didn't know where, I had no idea I was in Newark. Oh, wait, this time it was Connecticut. Or no, I'm sorry, Oklahoma was the first place that I went to.
Where you guys stopped, yeah.
Where we stopped. But the federal holding cell for women was overcrowded, so I had to go to the Grady County, which was Oklahoma County Jail.
Oh, so they took you off the tarmac and then brought you to the county jail.
Yeah.
Oh, that was even worse. And Oklahoma's bad.
It was terrible, yeah.
Wow.
It was like I thought I was going to die. I thought I would die in that prison.
On the plane, you're with men too.
Yes.
Because when I was on Con Air, they had the woman in the front and they would load them on after.
Right.
And you couldn't talk to them or interact with them.
Right. And the marshal would sit in front of you, facing you. But the interesting thing was, and I can't remember, the first time to Oklahoma, Chad wasn't there, but the second time from Oklahoma to Connecticut, he was sitting right behind me. But we couldn't, talk or anything, so I just kind of tilted a little bit to the right, probably just crying the whole time, like, yeah, what's going on, what's happening, yeah.
Go on.
I was just going to say there was a public defender in Connecticut that was assigned to me, and I don't remember when he said, but he was the one that said that I'm facing 10 or 20 years or something.
Wow. What a whole different environment for you. So in the county, what was that like in Oklahoma?
It was horrible. There was only me and one other girl, and we were in this holding cell, but then we were rolling up our pants because there was like water, liquid floating in the ground. And then they took us out of that and put us in another holding cell that had other women in there, but it was tight. It was smaller than this office, and there was a phone, so women were screaming to their moms, like, get me out of here. There was another lady that was pregnant, like she looked like she was going to be due any minute. There was another lady laying on the floor on a mattress, passed out, and so the lady that was pregnant goes, are you the feds? And you don't know, is that a good thing, what to say. And she said, come sit on my mattress. And so I was like, I don't want to sit on your mattress. But the way she said it the second time was like, I'm going to kill you if you don't come sit on her mattress. So we went to sit on, then she got up and used that time that she had to get up to like start fighting the girl on the floor. So she was like punching her, I don't see fights. I'm not a fighter. She was punching her. Blood was flying everywhere. Then everyone screaming. It was. I thought, yeah, this is not going to be well. And so they got me and the other girl from the feds out, and it was horrible.
What a mess. So
it was a mess.
You make it back you land at Newark, and then they bring you to Connecticut for your first court appearance.
Yeah.
Where were you held in Connecticut?
Wyatt.
Wyatt.
First I had, I was supposed to go to Wyatt, but they forgot about me, so they sent me to Danbury to the SHU. So that was my first
so you were
experience.
in Danbury
I was in the SHU one night. Yeah. So that was my first time I was watching women like already sentenced going away for 19 years, 27 years, 23 years. And as they walked away, I'm like, dang, these women are going their years. Like these are years. And these are young women. When you're with them, they seem like not the kind of women you would think would get all that time.
Yeah. Did you interact with the women and kind of like when I was pending, sentencing, I would interact with people who were already sentenced, and you kind of get you try your best to get a understanding of what's to come, and every situation's different, so you can never compare. But when you're sitting in limbo, your mind's going wild.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, and it's just mind-blowing when you think of the years. Like, and they would talk about years like candy, like 19, 18, 12, 27. I'm like, wait, years? Like, years. That's insane.
Yeah. So then they bring you to Hartford for your first court appearance.
Yeah. I went from Danbury to Wyatt and found my new home for the next almost 2 years. I was at Wyatt.
Oh, you were pending.
Pending.
That's such a terrible place to do time.
Yeah. And they had a 2-point reduction possibility coming, like the law was going to pass. So I waited. So I was told to wait for that. But yeah, there's no outside. You're in that one room.
Why couldn't you get bond when you were out here in Connecticut?
At one point, they let me go to the Salvation Army at Hartford.
Wait, just walk out of the prison to go to the Salvation Army?
Yeah.
For a day?
No, they said my attorney did something. I don't know. Oh, I guess, was it after I pled guilty? I don't think it was after I pled guilty. It was in April. I was arrested in January, and then they said I can go to the Salvation Army for a few months or something. So I went to the Salvation Army.
And did they say you were like a flight risk or something, or a risk to the community, which is why they didn't give you bail the first time when you got here?
He said his exact words were, "I'm not going to let a high purveyor of plutonium out in my state."
High purveyor of plutonium?
Yeah.
Do you remember who your judge was?
I don't remember the magistrate judge.
Okay.
My other judge was Cavella.
And that was in Connecticut too?
Hartford, yeah.
Interesting. So why did it take so long to go through the legal process? Were there people on the case too that wanted to go to trial or anything? Or?
No, it was just because I know my attorney thought that new law was going to pass for the 2-point reduction.
Okay.
So we're kind of waiting for that.
And was there a mandatory minimum in your case?
Yes.
Which was the 5 years?
10 years.
Oh, 10 was the mandatory minimum.
Yeah.
Okay. So the law would eventually get passed then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So that saved you some time.
Right.
And the other people on your case, they didn't offer you a deal at all because it seemed like they weren't even after you to begin with.
They did offer me a deal if I would tell on Chad.
Which was the boyfriend?
Yeah.
Okay. And you didn't want to do that?
No, it was the first time that I think I made my own decision, because if I were to tell on him, he would have got like 20 years. He'd never been in trouble before. It was the same kind of situation as I am. And I thought, I didn't just stumble into this, crime ring. And so I didn't feel right to be like, let me disclose all this information and you're going to get 20 years and I'm going to get 2 years or something. It just, I didn't feel right. And there was a woman who was in the prison with me, and I don't even know her name, but she, I said, it was hard because you're thinking, I'm not going to tell. But my attorney's like, Kristy, everybody tells. They tell on their mother, they tell on their father, they tell on their brother. Everybody tells. Like, there's not a case where no one tells. So they're going to tell on you and then you're going to get the 20 years. I'm like, not going to, this is not who we are. And he was mad. He's like, damn it. This is who, you're a drug dealer. This is who you are. This is here everybody is. And the girl said, Kristy, when you lay your head down tonight, whatever decision you come up with, you have to be at peace with that. And that's the decision you have to make. When she said that, I'm like, yeah, I can't tell.
Do you stand by that decision today?
Yeah. And no one else told. Because, we were all people who were addicted, who got caught up and didn't, it wasn't that kind of, I don't know if that's a relationship or that kind of situation. So no one told. Did
you and Chad get the same amount of time?
5 years.
5 years each.
And the priest did too.
The priest got 5 years too.
Even though he had a lot more counts than we did. But what I was told was the courtroom was filled with his parishioners who begged on his behalf. And he also got 5 years. But then the only 2 people that had been back to prison was Chad, who I was with, and the priest since, because they couldn't stay sober.
Did you have any family come to Connecticut to support you?
I did, and that was so painful. My sister said, I'm going to come. And I'm like, I don't want you here. I don't want to taint you. It was bad. She said, I don't care. I'm coming. And I still remember trying to get ready for her to see her visit, you know. And at that time, I had no visitors for a while. And, you know, you learn to put ink on a toothbrush to use the mascara to make your eyes look, you know, you're trying to be normal and you look like crap and you're in this terrible situation. And that was a bad mistake. I used like the Jolly Ranchers to like get my lips a little. Did you guys ever do any of that?
No, we used Jolly Ranchers to like make hooch or Laffy Taffy. But
What about hair? Like hair gel? Did you use that for hair gel?
No, they might even have sold some type of hair gel. I don't know. Or guys just weren't. A lot of guys like their hair short, you know, in prison, and they're not really like spiking it or anything or dyeing it, you know.
Yeah, we tried to dye it with coffee and all that. Yeah, but so the pen as mascara was the worst mistake because when you cry, it just like you just black falling down your face. So when I was leaving the pod, the girls were like, "It's okay, Kristy. You know, your sister wants to make sure you're okay." Because I was shaking, because my two worlds were going to collide. You know, my Kristy Alms, like good world, and then this horrible, bad decision, this person that I become kind of world. But when we saw each other, you know, I remember, you know, you have to punch in your number and get on the phone. And then it was beautiful in the fact that that's the first time that I felt loved and seen and like I was a human. But again, when you're disconnected, it's easier to go through this kind of stuff when you're not connected because you don't have all those emotions. So then when she was leaving, I was like, don't leave me. Like, yeah, man, it was... You know, we decided who was going to leave first. We're both crying. That was and still makes me cry because that was like the most painful day ever.
How did you feel once you were finally sentenced internally?
I was sentenced on my birthday. So I thought he may let me out because every time from Wyatt to Hartford, we would pass the Providence Mall and I would see P.F. Chang's. I was like, I really want some like orange honey chicken. You know, Wyatt's food's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole thing. And I thought, my family's there, you know, which is the worst thing when you have a sentencing and it's my birthday. Maybe he's going to, I had already been in like 2.5 years. And I thought maybe he would let me out, but he didn't. So I got 5 years. Painful.
So how much more time would you have to do after that? If you do 2.5, what is it, like another 1.5 years with the good time?
Yeah, however, the judge, when he sentenced me, he said, Kristy, you're going to go to a camp in California. Like, he knew I was like, what the heck, my family, my sister stood up, you know, saying everything against what the prosecutor said, you know. So the judge said, you're going to be at a camp in California. It's not that bad. You know, your family can come see you. You'll do ARAP. You'll get a year off. And laid it out, you'll be like 3.5 years. So when I left, then I went to Oklahoma. And the plane that went to California didn't take me on that plane. And they told me that they were sending me to Carswell, Texas. And, you know, when you're in Wyatt and you're preparing, you're looking at the different prisons. You're reading prison books, like... because it's scary. And so I was learning about California and Dublin and, but then so to say Carswell. And my mom looked at it and she goes, that says the Hospital of Horrors is what it said. And so they said that based on, you know, the operations I had as a kid. And even though I didn't need the medical attention, you know, I'm sure they get lots more money to have someone there. So they had me in the maximum security in Texas.
How was your medical condition at that time?
It was good. It was fine. I mean, it was fine.
So you didn't technically need to go there? I
didn't. The only time when I was in Carswell, I had a kidney issue, but I think it was really my kidneys started to fail, and which had never happened, but I think it was the stress of me trying to get out to go to another prison because the women were telling me that the ARAP program that they have there, no one graduates. Or like, Kristy, you're not going to be able to do it. I'm like, well, I really don't have a choice to go anywhere else to do it. So I was trying to get out to go, and that was a nightmare trying to get out. So I did ARAP, but I got kicked out.
Why did you get kicked out?
They said I was inauthentic. There was 32 of us. There was 2 of us left. And, it's hard to do inner work when you're in survival mode. I don't know why people think that you can do work on yourself, but I tried. Most people quit or got kicked out, and I'm not quitting. And so right a little bit before I was going to go home, they called me in the office. They said that there was no clinical progress. They said that I was inauthentic. And I'm like, if I was authentic, I wouldn't be here. Like, I don't even know what that meant. I'd not really heard that word so much before. And she also said, knowing that I couldn't have kids, and I don't know if you're familiar with ARAP and what they and the process in there.
The men call it like a snitching type.
Yeah.
Is that like that in the woman?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So she said to me, she said, she kicked me out, and then she called me back in her office, and I thought, maybe she's changed her mind because this is ridiculous, and because I didn't do anything. I didn't have drugs or have sex, nothing. So I was upset, to say the least, that I'd have to do another year. And so she said, thank God you couldn't have children, Laschober. She said, you would have been a terrible mother.
That's what she said to you? Wow.
She said, I bet you're a terrible daughter and a terrible sister. Now get out of my office.
So what did you do to provoke her? Were you like causing trouble there at all? You must have been on someone's radar. You pissed someone off in there.
Well, there was 32 people and there was 2 of us left, So the one thing, I was devastated when she said that. So that's kind of how the whole writing thing started, because I'm like, there must be something wrong with me, because who I think I am and where I am and what they're saying I am is not matching in any capacity. And so later I worked in landscaping, and then that day I was devastated that I have to do another year. And then she said all that to me. What woman would ever say that to another woman? And I said that to my boss. I'm like, boss, can you believe they kicked me out? Like, I was so upset. I thought it would be better if I wasn't on the planet. At that moment, that's the time that I was thinking it's probably better if I'm not here. I just off myself, because something must be really wrong with me. And he said, Laschober, he said, I don't think they met anyone like you in here before. And when he said that, for some reason, something resonated with me. And he said, just work, run around the track, because I used to run around the track a lot. Do the work you need to and get the hell out. But he said it in such a kind of loving way. And he was really good looking, so he never spoke. Nobody ever, he never talked. Those were the most words he'd ever said to me in one sentence in, the year that I had been there. And so I believed him. That's the only hope that I had. And I believed him, and I just worked from there.
I wonder how these judges, feel learning about stories like this, because I feel like when they sentence someone, they do have good intentions of because they want them to be with their family. Like the judge in my case wanted me to be close to home, and then I end up in Wisconsin, because judges can say, I suggest you to go somewhere, and the BOP does the opposite with that. So I wonder if that would ever, in hindsight, if that would alter the judge's opinion. I wonder if he's listening to this and he looks back, well, maybe I should have just let her out then and there if I knew X, Y, and Z was going to happen. And she couldn't be close to family, and she couldn't do this, and she couldn't do that. And she gets kicked out of the drug program. It's just such a messed up system.
It's a messed up system. Yeah. And when I went to appeal their decision to kick me out, the regional officer was the lady's husband.
Yeah, all that stuff's rigged.
All that. So, and, I have a reentry court judge who is now one of my best friends, which is a whole other interesting story. And when I tell her the story, she gets so angry. She's a federal judge. She's like, Kristy, she goes, if you came in front of me in Oregon, you wouldn't have got any time. I'm like, what? That is effed up. Yeah. Depending on where you are, you get no time, you get 5 years, you get, it's so arbitrary. And the numbers that they pass out for these draconian sentences for a lot of the women, is the thing that makes me fight. But I tried to find the judge now that I'm here in Connecticut. He's 91 now.
Is he retired or?
He's on senior status. So,
even the ARAP program, it's all rigged.
It is.
And it's unfair. I actually had a woman message us to share her story. She lost the year on halfway when she was on the halfway house, lost a year because she ate a poppy seed bagel.
Yeah.
Which happens all the time. But she
Right.
actually sued them in federal court and won.
Oh, she did.
Got the time back, I think got money. That's very
amazing.
rare because you have to go through all the BP forms and everything, and it just, it's a screwed up thing.
Good for her. Yeah, I know women that could do that too, and win, I'm sure.
Yeah,
it's so messed up. It is so messed up.
So the facility you went to, that wasn't a camp. It was a medical facility where they had a variety of women of all
it was
charges.
maximum security. I mean, I was with the woman who she was on death row and got out. She was the angel of death, Kristen Gilbert. She was my cell. I had a man who was a woman who became a woman, cut off her penis in the men's prison to do her retirement prison in a women's prison.
So she was actually there. They allowed
she was in
her.
my bunk. She was under me.
Were you afraid at all? Because that's technically a male.
It's a male, yeah. Like when I would be asleep, she'd say, "Kristy, get up." It's like, it was. I was, for some reason, I wasn't afraid. Maybe a little bit, but if we're standing or count, her hands were bigger than my head. Like her hand would be there, and it was someone who cut off their penis.
Did the prison give her that surgery, or she got on the outside?
I'm not sure.
Wow, I've never heard this perspective before. That's like some Orange is the New Black stuff right there. Mm-hmm. And she had long hair and the whole
She had
9
blonde pigtails.
Blonde pigtails. Wow. And wore a bra, everything.
I would imagine, yeah. It was a good, yeah.
And you guys, how were the cells structured? Were you guys locked in or was it free to roam around?
Free to roam. There were 4 of us.
Wow.
In the cell.
That's interesting. You guys are free to roam even though they have maximum security prisoners there.
Well, yeah. Well, on the other side, they had admin, which I was new. I didn't know what admin was. I was telling my landscape boss, "Oh, you got to hire this girl. She's like, Kristy, she's been an admin for, 15 years." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm thinking she's like a secretary. Yeah, administration." It's like, no, she's like maximum lockdown,
So the woman that was on death row, she was in federal death row?
Yeah, well, she was going to be on death row. She was out of Boston, but they said that if she wrote a letter, she wrote some kind of a letter talking about, I don't know if it was her experience or something, that they would just give her life.
And did you get to interact with this woman at all?
Yeah, I became friends with her.
And what's something that you want, like the audience that might be that wants to understand the mindset of someone like this? What have you learned about her that others wouldn't necessarily see from the outside looking in?
I've learned that you have no idea what people do. Like when I speak in women's leadership conferences and I stand up in my nice suit or outfit and they're all dressed in their suits and I say, I would love to tell you that I was just, in the middle of curing this amazing, I have this amazing cure for cancer or this new shoe line. But instead, I just was released from federal prison. And you hear the gasp. And I said, yeah, look at the person next to you. You have no idea what that lady did yesterday. You have no idea the mindset, really, unless you live with the person. And so when I was living with Kristen, like when you're standing there, your legs almost are touching each bunk. So there's not a lot of room. So I would watch, to find something that was going to be a quirk or something that would reveal someone that would do that. And I never saw it.
Had you read about her or seen like documentaries or anything before you got in there?
No, I didn't. Her episode was on Snapped a lot, so they would say, "Hey, Gilbert, your show's on," and she would cry, and so I felt bad for her.
And do you think that she actually did the crime after learning about her and knowing her and not knowing anything about her beforehand?
If you asked me, I would say no.
Okay.
In fact, there's a book about her, and one of the other ladies that was like, big in the prison, she came up to her one day when I was there. She said, "Gilbert, this book is going around. I don't believe you did it, and I'll get rid of all the books if you want me to," which is not something that lady would have done. That was not her personality. She was more of tough, kind of not bully, but more tough. So I thought, oh, okay, I'm not the only one that kind of thinks that.
Interesting. And how would the guards treat her?
They would treat her fine. She was very smart, very creative. She was a nurse. So if I ever needed anything, she would write, call out for me to, was it a call out, or I forgot what the words are that you write for me to see medical for something, and she would write it well. And yeah.
And what was she in prison for?
They called her the angel of death. I guess they said that she, it was a veteran hospital, and that the guys were near, that were dying, but she would inject them with something so that the doctor would come and the doctor would watch her save these patients. But sometimes they didn't get saved, and then they died.
I think I remember hearing about this case. And so she's still in prison now because she got life.
Yeah.
Do you guys communicate at all?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's interesting. When you tell people that, or do you tell people that?
I don't really tell very many people that.
Okay. The ones you do, how do they respond?
I don't think they know what to do with that, because the most people that I'm around have never been incarcerated, or, I do a lot of work in the community and prison reform and all that, but I also believe that from my experience that I share a lot with those that have never been in prison, so they can kind of see a different, the stigma's kind of squashed a little bit. And so I don't think they could, I don't think people could really understand that, because I wouldn't understand that if I didn't experience it. Like she would get letters constantly of people that would want her just to write them so they could have her signature so that they could sell it. And I'm like, what? That's crazy. And I said, why don't you answer some of them? Because, it's just you. And she goes, and one time she did, she's like, Kristy, you don't understand. This is, so here's what they want. They're crazy, blah, blah, blah. And so she would answer. And then they would respond in a way that was not good. So I said, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. So she knows. What
was the biggest misconception you had about prison that kind of got debunked once you got into prison yourself?
The biggest misconception was that people deserved the time that they got, that people were bad people, that they were unsafe, and they were people that need to be in prison for that long.
And how long did it take you to realize that that wasn't true?
When I got to Carswell, because when I was at Wyatt, I was still in that little room, and there was pre-trial, but yeah, when I got to Carswell, I realized that. Because, these women were in there 27, 33, 42, 50 years.
Oh. What was a case or an individual, and it could be the one you were just describing, but that really resonated with you?
That resonated with me in regard to that I didn't think they should have that time that they had?
Just in general, someone that left like a lasting impact, maybe someone that kind of showed you the way about prison, or was actually innocent, or was just like their total life was just, destroyed. So many. There's case after case after case after case of women, a woman that was, she was a fashion. She did furs and fashion in Las Vegas. She had a business manager. Some tax thing, and he threw her under the bus. And she was in there. She died in there in a wheelchair. So there's other women that you can tell. When I was in RDAP and people would explain their situations, and their family life, and it was terrible. Did that person deserve 27 years for a drug offense? No. Did someone deserve 32 years for, writing a map for their brother who, and how to get to a place? There's someone named Michelle West who's still in there for, I think she's going on 34 years. I think she has 2 life sentences plus 50 or something ridiculous. And she was 19 with the guy. I think someone got killed. The guy, everyone's home except her. And she was the least. She was the least. Part of the case.
But as the woman, they seem like the women are always still in and the men are already home.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. That's why I said, when I first got out, I wasn't going to tell anyone where I was because I moved to Oregon. It just makes me so angry that the government just throws people away.
When they released you, you went straight to Oregon?
I did because Chad got out first because he did the ARAP program but didn't get.
Oh, you wanted to get back with Chad?
Well, we were kind of together for a while through that and even before we started to use. So I thought, I lost my house. His parents kept his house for him, kept everything. And so I thought I was just going to go back. I thought, I thought he was doing the same healing that I was, but he wasn't.
Did you guys communicate while you were in prison together?
Yeah.
Did they let you talk to each other, or did you just write letters?
Not really. Well, they don't let you.
How were you able to communicate with him?
There was a time I think that we were allowed to at Wyatt, but either through like a three-way or letters.
Okay. And so how much time did you serve in total? Was it like 4 years?
A little over 4 years.
A little over 4 years. And then you had 3 years probation?
I had 5.
Oh, you had 5. Yeah, most drug offenses are 5.
5. But when I got out, I went to Oregon because he wasn't doing well. So I knew I wasn't going to go back there. And so my head was like, I don't want to, I want to go home. So it's where I'm from. But my heart was like, I need to go to Oregon where my mom and my sister were. And so that was like the best choice that ever happened, that I ever made. There's not a lot around in Ashland, Oregon. There's just trails and, rivers. And I really healed. It was really the first time I lived by myself and healed and went back to college. I had a reentry court judge. The halfway house said, there's a reentry court. You go for a year, one Friday a month, and you'll get a year off your probation. I was like, yeah, right. I heard that before with our down. I'm not falling for that. And they said, but I went, and it was amazing. The judge, her name was Ann Aiken. There would be probably 12 or 13 people around a table, with prosecutors, attorneys, judges, counselors, police officers, and then they'd say, okay, you were in. And so she would say, how was your month? And these guys would talk forever about how their month is, what they need. And she would be writing things down and making phone calls. Okay, what do you need? You need this? Okay, we got you. You need this? Okay, we got you. And she would recommend books and movies and just really let everyone talk. And so we had to do that for 3 months watching, and then we could sign up to join that. So I did. And it was amazing.
What were some of the biggest challenges reintegrating after, losing over 4 years of your life to this?
And I lost everything, everything. Like I said, I got a pair of jeans from a homeless person. And it was all the shame and the guilt. And, you're beat down inside prison. So like I said, for the lady to say that to me about it's a great thing that I couldn't have kids. And so you're just trying to gather, trying to balance. And it was everything. It was everything that was hard, little by little.
I think it's even harder to have your life established, live a life, have everything, and then lose it all and then try to rebuild from that too.
Right.
When you're older and, you had been through a marriage and so many things, you're literally at square one again. Yeah,
I was 52.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine dating, anything, rebuilding.
That's still hard. That's still hard. I know. If I date someone, I'm like, let's see, do I want
Yeah, how does that work when going on a date when you're a woman that has a criminal record? How do you even bring that up?
That's funny. This one time, the guy was like, well, let's just get everything out on the table. You haven't been to prison, have you? I was like, well, yeah, I have. So it's you have to make a little bit light of it, or else, it's very hard. And, it takes a while, I don't say anything for a little while because it's kind of you want to be transparent, but then, does everyone tell you there's the worst thing they ever did immediately? So it's always a fine line. But I think the most important thing is you have to be solid in yourself. You have to make peace with where you've been, what you're doing. You have to be proud of yourself. You have to really be connected, and so that nothing can really penetrate the solidness of who you are.
Do you think it would have been even harder to reintegrate if you had kids yourself?
Oh, I can't even imagine. Because it was hard just for me. But with kids, I mean, that's a whole other horrific experience. And they give these women so much time.
Yeah. Was your friends and family curious about what prison was like? And were you open to talking to them about it when you first got home?
I was open. People didn't really ask a lot about it. The people that I met in Oregon, like I said, I wasn't going to share, but then little by little, I shared a tiny bit, and the response from them was so lovely, for lack of a better word, that it kept me sharing a little bit more. There was a lady, she was going to, she wanted me to come over her house for dinner, and I was like, well, she had kids, and I don't know. I mean, I just wanted to tell her. And I said, I just want to let you know I was in federal prison. I just got out. She goes, oh, I bet you have great stories, which was such a better thing. Which, if she would have said, oh, really, and kind of stepped back in fear, then that would have been hard. But each time people responded in a way that made me not feel bad.
Have you gotten negative reactions when you've told people that you went to prison?
Yeah. Yeah, some. And you know what? I was at a place by that time that it's like, well, then I know that you're not the kind of person that I want to hang with, so that's fine. Yeah. And you also, then I also think you must have some stuff that you're hiding too, and I'll, wish the best for you.
How are you finally able to rebuild and create what you have now? How long did that take you?
I was in Oregon for 5 years. I got a job at a hotel, and which is real weird when you get out of prison and then you have the keys to this whole hotel. It's like, dude, you would not even let me go to the bathroom when I wanted, but now I have the keys to this whole hotel, So I did that, and I went to college. It was my reentry court judge. It said, why aren't you in school? And they kind of helped me, with my papers and applying for school and things like that. So I went to school for innovation and leadership, and I got a tutor. And I think because I'm older, I asked for help. At that point, I was like, okay, I'm going to need some help. And help meaning I had to do a lot of hard work, so I wasn't given. I mean, there were people that were generous that, would give me a TV in my house, things like that I gave back. But, I had to work hard. But when I was afraid, I had to be afraid and keep doing it. And the results were amazing. I mean, I got good grades. I got straight A's. And then I transferred to the university. And when I shared a little bit, people wanted to hear more. Of course, then the university wants to hear your story. Look what we are doing for a woman, who was in prison. A turning point for what I do now. One of my assignments was Twitter. I had to learn about Twitter and get on and do 3 tweets and retweets. And there was a guy, Noel Vest, who sent me a private message. And he's like, hey, Kristy, I see you were incarcerated. And I just passed a law to remove the criminal history box on college applications I think he did in Washington. And he said, do you want to do it in Oregon? It's a cool experience to pass a law as someone who was incarcerated. And I said, yeah, let's do it. And I had, no idea what that meant. But over the next 2 years, we did that. I met senators, and I learned about the whole government and passing laws, and we passed that law in Oregon. So now there's no criminal history box on any college applications in Oregon, and we're trying to get that done in all the states.
That's great.
Yeah, because when most people come to that box, they don't continue, because they have this little line that says explain. And so, you find yourself begging, just give me a chance. I mean, just to get into the school. And so when someone gets their associate's degree, the recidivism rate goes down to 16%.
I mean, they should
16.
do that for jobs too.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I think unless it's like a specific job where your crime doesn't allow you to do that.
Right.
But overall, they should just, eliminate that box.
For sure. And there's no the statistics show any crime committed on campus is not by anyone who's been in prison. It's always by younger people doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, and the ones that I'm sure that have committed a crime on campus to begin with or whatnot, they're normally like a school shooting type of thing, and they're locked away forever.
Right, exactly.
So they wouldn't even be applying.
Right, or maybe a drunk, someone's drinking, had committed a crime through something like that or whatever. But the majority are, if someone has opportunity to go to school and you get your first test and you're doing well, you're like, you no longer look back on that lifestyle. You're on this other trajectory that, that feeds your intrinsic value. And then you just keep going and going. And so I met a lot of people that do a lot of work in the prison reform world, and I was floored by it. I had no idea that there's people out here fighting. I just thought you are locked away when you get out, good luck. But that's not it. There's so many amazing organizations doing great work. And so I just started sharing, and I love to speak to women's leadership conferences or those that have that don't have anything to do with incarceration, because I love, like I said, squashing the stigma of people who've been inside. And so I moved to Louisiana, worked at Operation Restoration as a lead life coach. I wrote a book, and I work with other legislators for different laws and do a lot of different stuff.
It'd be interesting to do like a poll on what, like if you tell the people that see you speak beforehand that you went to prison, and then see what their opinion, like have them write their opinion, and then what their opinion is after you speak.
Yeah.
Because that's just, I feel like it just changes so many perspectives, which just goes back to the whole concept of marking the box.
Right.
Like when you tell someone you went to prison, it's automatically, a biased red flag.
Right.
But then after
Biased
they get to know you,
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because usually that talk that I do, because there's no PowerPoints. I don't have all the, it's just me and stories and explaining, different experiences. And because I'm talking to my old self, I'm talking to the girl that was dressed up selling shoes at Nordstrom, or as a stylist. So I know what's going to get to them. And so they always say that was the best talk out of the whole conference, because it was real and stories, and I have them interact, and I bring up things about, like, knowing, like I have them check like this little box that says, check this box if you ever feel any of these, like these are women that, CEOs and stuff, that says I hate my job. This is secret. No one knows. So they click, they check it. They say, I know I have what it takes to start something new, but I'm afraid. All those things. And these people are checking all these boxes. Then I have them, fold it all up, and I say I'm collecting them, but then I repass them back out. So they're holding someone else's paper. And I said, this is like stand up for your sister. So stand up if you have a piece of paper that says, I hate my job. And then practically the whole lot is like, whoop. And everyone's shocked. And you hear the gasp, but I'm like, I'm not shocked. Because women, they're doing what they got to do, but they don't know that they can be happy and free and love themselves. And they're going to have to set some boundaries and make some different decisions. But it's not easy.
Yeah. Did you ever have any struggles with thinking about relapsing, or any encounters with drugs after prison?
I didn't. The only thing that surprised me was one day I was driving by a post office, and I was surprised that in my head it thought, wow, you know what? No one would know. You can just, probably sell $10,000 worth right now over the mail and no one would know. And I was like, what the hell? Like, after all that was still a thread of a thought through my mind, which I didn't. I had no intention, but that thought surprised me that it was there.
I'm sure it's probably even harder now than ever to pull that off with all the screening. I don't know. I just feel like it's even worse.
I don't know.
Wow. That is it's very crazy.
It's very well, and that just shows your mind. The mind is so powerful, and so the mind can go that way, or when the mind is focused on positive and joyfulness and love and connectedness. Not to be all kumbaya, but really it's true. Like whatever your mind is focused on, it's powerful. So yeah, when I had that thought, I was like, what the heck?
And I'm sure there's a ton of people that are faced with that, crossroads.
Right.
So what are like some helpful tips to kind of reel that person back in from the ledge right there?
I think the number one thing is to have a trusted friend that you can share all your stuff with. Like there was times that I'd be like, I was back in Mexico, and I had this feeling like I want my old life back. I'm stepping into this new student and working at a hotel, and I'm in this new city, and it's all good. But then this other part of you is like, wow, I kind of want that old life back, not remembering all the bad that was going on. And at the time I called someone, I'm like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. I started crying. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So instead of judging the thoughts in your head, I'd just be like, okay, here it is. It's going to happen. You're going to have these thoughts, and I'm going to talk to someone that I love and trust that's not going to judge me, that's going to let me process it and then move on.
Now, if you could go back in time to when you first, started this venture and, you went down the dark path, would you do it all over again?
It's funny. My first response is, hell no. The crazy thing is, I don't know what would have happened, what would have had to happen for me to be the woman I am right now. The woman who is probably one of the most free mentally people that I've ever met, who's peaceful, who has a good spiritual sense, who is super solid into who they are. I don't know. I think the number one question would be, how can I help women get there without going through horrific pain?
Yeah.
If I could ever get that answer, I would be a millionaire, because I don't know. I mean, I would not. It was terrible for so many things. I mean, I just don't know how I would have gotten to where I am now without all that. And the people that I get to be around, when you say someone who's been in prison, I have juvenile lifers, I love, my friends, I love. I feel like when I look through my Instagram, it is the richest, most, and I'm sure you experience this, most amazing, eclectic group of people that have such depth. And I think when you have someone who has the street smarts or that experience of incarceration, who's gone to college or who's helping others, there's something that is beautiful about that I would have never had if I hadn't gone through that.
Yeah, and I think it also shows that you're never too old or too young to find redemption. There can always be an act 2. I'm this young and I'm already on, I feel my act 3.
I was going to say.
Yeah, I've lived a whole nother life, before this, which is, it's crazy to even think about. And people that are coming new listening to the show, they don't even, realize that I had this whole life before,
right?
Which is just so crazy. And then there you have someone like you who is almost twice my age,
right?
And you were able to find, another act, and you've lived multiple acts. So I think that's inspiring to people that are kind of stuck, because there is that stigma of, your life is ruined. And if you were able to bounce back at where you were in life, then anyone else can too.
Right, for sure. Yeah, so I wonder, so what do you think your Act 6 is going to be? Where are you going to be acts? Yeah, 6. Well, that's still 3 more acts.
I mean, when I look back on it, I thought I was going to be running the club forever, and now I think about a lot. Am I going to be podcasting for 30 years?
No.
I don't know. I think when you look at like my genre, what I have picked never runs out of content because you have millions of people that went to prison.
Right.
The more people that come on, the more people will be comfortable to share their stories. Then you have millions in law enforcement, millions of psychologists, millions of mental health. Like,
Absolutely.
I'll never get to interview that many people.
No, you won't.
But it's like, I don't know. I think this is like my 250th interview now in like a year and a half.
That's amazing.
So I'm just, it's so fascinating sitting down and talking to people. But it does put into perspective
it
of
does.
like what your life is going to be because I'm not even 30 yet.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, so if you're in Act 3, I can imagine you got like so many more acts. And the one thing that I always say that I love this, and this may be like my adventuresome spirit or my curiosity. Like I'm a curious person too. That could lead you down a dark road if you're like curious or good. But I always say like I pretty much have an idea what my next month is going to be like. But after that, I have no idea. It just takes one phone call, one connection, anything to go down a different road, that can, like, I didn't think, I mean, I live in the South when my friends like, you live in the deep South. I'm like, isn't that crazy? I live in New Orleans now. Yeah. I would have never thought that.
Well, I mean, what I've been thinking about lately is everyone, like, you grow up and everyone's like, plan ahead for your future and this and that.
I so disagree with that.
Yeah, and then now I'm like, live in the moment.
Right.
Like I'm not so focused on, because I've learned a lot about patience and stuff, but because I was a very impatient person. Right. But now like I'm more living in the moment, Yeah. Like we plan so much about planning for a rainy day and retirement and this and that. A lot of people don't even make it to there.
Right.
So what am I going to put money in some IRA or whatever account and save, when I'm 65 when I can be living now? And obviously you want to be smart with finances and whatnot.
Absolutely.
But you got to live in the moment.
I agree.
You got to have fun.
If someone's like, what are you going to be when you grow up? It's like, I mean, I'm sure I'm going to do so many more cool stuff that I have no idea what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why it's cool to be entrepreneurs. Yeah. Because you can just like, if you want to go somewhere tomorrow, like, look, you're here in Connecticut. Yeah.
Connecticut.
You weren't even planning to come to Connecticut.
No, I know.
And now you weren't planning on sitting here at the studio.
Right. See, that's what I mean. It's like if you're curious and just reach out to say, hey, I'd like to meet you, and here I am, and now we're doing this podcast.
Yeah. How long have you been listening to it for?
Boy, it's been, I don't know, maybe like a few months.
How did you find it?
I don't know. I don't know if someone told me about it, or a lot of times when I'm flying, I like to download podcasts and listen to it. Yeah. But the last one that I listened to was the Chevy Chase one.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah. I think that's when I texted you or sent a message. Hey, and
that's a little more your speed, Chevy Chase.
Hey.
No, just saying it's in that age group.
Yeah, just because my name's Kristy and Kristy Brinkley was in this movie. Well, he's not my age group.
No, like for childhood actors,
you're right.
That's someone you looked up to. Yeah, to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I loved him.
Less than me.
Right. You probably didn't know who he was.
Oh, I knew. Young. I had to see the pictures. I grew up watching Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
So that's a classic. But not Fletch. I had to watch Fletch the night before I interviewed him.
Did.
Yeah, I don't know any of those other movies.
It's funny.
But Kristy, thank you so much for coming on and sitting down and sharing your story.
You're welcome.
It was very entertaining.
I'm so glad.
I didn't think it was going to take that turn, which is cool. Not in a negative way, but it's not every day you meet someone that's just casually trafficking meth across the country.
I know. Well, the book that I wrote has to do with trying to get as many people as possible to like make friends with their story, whatever it is, everyone has one, and to write about their own story and to love themselves through the process, give themselves a big fat break, and then start making good decisions.
Yeah, how does it feel to talk about it and like a different aspect of your story now after sitting here? Yeah,
it feels good just because of where I am today.
That's good. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to women coming out of prison that might be uncomfortable with sharing their story or haven't even thought of doing that?
Right. I think first, heal as much as you can, little by little. I think writing, that's the number one thing. Write every day, write every morning, check in with yourself. How are you feeling? Are you off balance? are you doing what's important? Where are you afraid? Who can I talk to get me, to help me with all my emotions that I have, and just understand that you're gonna work hard and do not be a victim.
Well said. Well, thank you again, and safe travels back to Louisiana, right?
Yep.
I got to go there
Yeah,
sometime.
you got to come to New Orleans.
I've never been in New Orleans.
You've never been?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I just saw the show, Your Honor. That was in there.
I started watching it.
It's so good.
I heard it was good.
And now I'm on Prison Break now.
Oh, yeah. You watch Prison Break?
I've never watched it before.
Yeah,
have you seen it?
I've never watched it, no.
Oh, you have to see it.
Is it?
It's so good. Yeah,
Really?
I was texting Mike Rappaport earlier because I'm working on getting him on the show.
Oh,
and he was in Prison Break.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be really good. But yeah, the New Orleans, the food, that's what I want to go for.
Food. Yeah, and Mardi Gras coming up next.
I don't care about all that, but the food.
I can see you there.
I'm not a partier anymore. I like to be in. Like tonight after this, I go home, I watch Prison Break, I make some dinner, and that's my night.
That's good, but it's interesting as someone who's curious. It's interesting to watch the phenomenon of what Mardi Gras is.
All right, I'll give you that one.
All right.
I'll let you know when I'm there.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ian.